Revealed, the sinister secrets of the cursed cave where 100 lost souls vanished forever. Sarah Mitchell had heard the stories. The tales of the cursed cave just outside Silver Hollow had echoed through the town like a chilling wind, but when her 9-year-old son, Jacob, didn't he come home from playing near the woods, those stories morphed from hearsay into visceral fear. Each tale was a brick in the wall of dread closing in around her. Now, as twilight sank its claws into the valley, she felt that wall tighten. The town had seen better days. Main Street was a ghost of its former self, its once bustling storefronts now crumbling and empty, sagging under the weight of lost dreams. And behind it all loomed the old coal mine, its gaping entrance a dark mouth ready to swallow whole anyone who ventured too close. It was said that in that cave, the souls of 100 lost miners lingered, forever restless, eternally hungry for something or someone to join them. Tonight, the chill in the air was more than just autumn's herald, it felt alive, as if its breath was frosty fingers trailing down her neck. The wind whispered through the trees, carrying with it the moans of those miners who vanished without a trace. As Sarah walked briskly, her heart raced, caught between fear for her son and the suffocating reality of her bills. She called out for Jacob, panic flickering over her skin like static. Then came his laughter. It echoed from deeper within the woods. A giddy sound, lost in the cacophony of crunching leaves and rustling branches. In that moment, relief washed over her until it didn't. The laughter transformed, twisted into a sound so warped it felt like something was mocking her, an unsettling imitation of innocence. Sarah's instinct screamed for her to turn back, but she pressed on. "Jacob!" she called, her voice a strained whisper that cracked under the weight of dread. She pushed through the overgrown brush until she stumbled upon the cave, its entrance gaping wide like a black hole in the earth. Shadows danced at the periphery, flickering in the dying light, while ominous murmurs began to ripple through the darkness. She couldn't understand it, this was the place where her neighbors had warned her to steer clear. As rumors of disappearances spread, so did an unsettling apprehension, clinging to the very air. This town was sown with secrets, and Sarah could feel them bending in on her, the weight suffocating. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue, and then silence. The laughter had vanished, replaced by an all-consuming void. Something in her gut told her the worst was yet to come, and that instinct clawed at her resolve. With trembling hands, she reached for the journal she had found in the attic earlier, pages yellowed with age, scrawls marking how over the years, families had sacrificed the innocent to appease the miners' anguished souls. As she read, a heavy dread coiled around her heart, realizing the pattern of disappearances had long ties to the cave. Eyes wide, she slipped the journal into her pocket and took a step forward, daring the shadows to close in around her. But the moment she crossed that threshold was the moment the ground seemed to shudder beneath her. Inside, the air grew heavier, thick with murmurs as shadows loomed taller. The miners, were they just figments of local myth, or did they linger, resentful and hungry? As her breath quickened, she felt a presence behind her, cold and clammy, whispering directly into her ear. And just before everything faded to black, she knew one thing: in Silver Hollow, trust was a myth, and the true horrors lay beyond the cave's mouth, waiting. Darkness enveloped Sarah as her feet stumbled over loose stones, the rough terrain punishing her attempts to flee. The whispers grew louder, filling her head with a cacophony of sorrow and rage, pressing against her skull like a vice. Panic surged through her veins, igniting a primal instinct to escape. Yet, the shadows shifted too fast, too close, and she could no longer discern the boundary between reality and nightmare. "Jacob!" she shouted again, the name twisted in her throat as if it were being drawn from some dreadful depths. The suffocating silence responded, mocking her desperation, and then, abruptly, the murmurs changed. They formed coherent words as if the very walls of the cave pulsed with the miners' restless souls. "Join us, join us." The sound slithered into her mind, wrapping around her thoughts like a constricting snake. Heart racing, she pressed deeper, compelled by a combination of fear and a desperate hope. The journal weighed heavy in her pocket, a constant reminder of the dreadful stories that haunted her. The miner's bitter longing clawed at her, an insistent nudge pushing her toward the darkness waiting ahead. Suddenly, a skittering sound broke through the whispers, something small and quick darting between the shadows. Her heart leaped. Was it Jacob? Jacob! She cried again, voice cracking. She strained her ears, hoping for a response. Instead, a distinct whimper reached her, breaking the tension with a gut-wrenching clarity. It was a child's voice, frightened and lost. "Mommy!" The sound sent her reeling. "I'm coming, Jacob." She dashed into the cave, driven by sheer instinct. Each step seemed to bring the blackness closer, clinging to her like 1,000 cold hands reaching out, grasping to pull her in. The passage opened into a vast chamber, where faint glimmers of light flickered like false hope in the corners. Her eyes raced across the cavern, searching. In the eerie light, shadows took form. She stumbled back as she recognized what they were: the miners, their hollow eyes pleading and desperate, specters of their own anguish and despair. "Help us!" they all cried in unison, their voices blending into a sinister chant that echoed around the chamber. A chill crawled up Sarah's spine as she recognized the faces of long-lost townsfolk, twisted in pain, each one trapped in the cycle of hopelessness. Her breath hitched as she turned in a panic, the voices gaining strength, amplifying her fear. "Join us before it's too late!" They reached for her with spectral hands, shadows stretching and dragging her closer to the void that promised escape. But in that moment of despair, a flicker of movement caught her peripheral vision. It was Jacob, standing at the entrance of the cave, his small form illuminated by the dim light like a beacon. He was there, alive, peering into the darkness with wide, innocent eyes. "Mommy!" he called out, running toward her. Sarah's heart swelled with love and anguish. "Jacob!" Time seemed to warp as the miner's grasping hands faded in her peripheral vision, their whispers dissolving into frantic, garbled sounds. The urgency to reach her son ignited a fire within her. She surged forward, but the cave groaned as if it were alive, stirring with anger at her defiance. A sudden torrent of wind swept through, slamming the cave walls, sending debris cascading down, blocking any path of retreat. "Mommy!" Jacob's voice trembled, and she turned, desperation flooding her senses. With the cave now shaking and shadows swirling, Sarah had a choice. She could dive into the darkness, into the unknown, or she could embrace her son, but would it be enough to save them both? The ground trembled beneath her feet, the miner's anguish pressing in. She felt the heaviness of their despair, aware that every decision could lead to salvation or damnation. "Hold on, Jacob!" she shouted, tearing her focus away from the shadows closing in. Could she escape their pull? But in that frantic moment, the earth roared, and as she and Jacob stood at the heart of chaos, the cave seemed to exhale, revealing something horrible within its depths. Could they outrun the curse, or was this merely the beginning of their descent into darkness? The ground rumbled, a cacophony of stone and dust erupting around them. Sarah clutched Jacob, her heart pounding like a war drum in her chest. The shadows loomed, swaying and writhing, their whispers a mist of despair blending with the sound of crumbling rock. Was the cave alive? It felt sentient, thrumming with an awful hunger for something she couldn't quite understand. "Mommy, don't let go." Jacob's terrified voice cut through the chaos, grounding her for just a moment amidst the swirling terror. She tightened her grip, determined not to lose him to the darkness that crept closer, tendrils of shadow reaching for their feet. "Stay with me!" she screamed, desperately searching her surroundings for an escape. The miners' ghostly figures pressed in around them, eyes hollow, mouths forming words that dripped with sorrow. Join us," the words hung heavy in the air, weighing on her like an anchor. Sarah had read about the cave in the journal, the tales of powerful curses whispering through the generations, how the deeper one went, the tighter the darkness gripped the soul. She had dismissed them as mere legends. Now she wished she hadn't. With every tick of her racing heart, the oppressive feeling intensified. The walls of the cavern seemed to pulse, a living being, ready to consume them whole. What did they want? Was it their salvation or their doom that they sought? Run! A fierce resolve flared up in her. She yanked Jacob toward a dim light shimmering in the distance. It flickered like a candle but felt alluring and safe, in stark contrast to the shadows swirling around them. The miner's mournful wails turned into howls of rage as she dashed past them. They lunged, their ghostly fingers brushing against her skin, icy and biting, but she pushed on. "Mommy!" Jacob screamed as he stumbled, nearly falling. She shifted her focus, reaching back just in time to scoop him into her arms, his small body safe against her chest, her lifeline against the abyss. "Keep your eyes on me," she instructed, running faster, adrenaline flooding her veins. But the cave's earth-shaking roars drowned everything out, the very air thickening with a suffocating dread. The light drew closer, spinning in a golden glow, tangible even amidst the darkness. It called to her, almost pleading with her to reach it. Could it be hope? Just as she thought they might escape through its illumination, a surge of icy wind rushed past them, howling like a banshee intent on dragging them back. The specters shrieked, their wails intertwining with the wind, a chorus of death and despair. Here, at this precipice, Sarah felt it, the weight of the miners' broken dreams, their desperate need not just to escape but to keep the living from leaving them behind. "Let us go, please," she cried out, tears streaming down her face. But the shadows pressed against her, pulling her more strongly, whispering promises of peace that danced just out of reach. She felt Jacob's grip slacken, fear eclipsing trust. Panic surged in her like a wildfire. She couldn't let go. Beneath the sound of chaos, something shifted in the air. A figure emerged from the flickering light, a woman, her face serene yet sorrowful. She reached out, beckoning. "Take his hand, you must choose," she murmured, eyes dark with the weight of the lost. The shadows congealed around Sarah. They howled, pleading, enraged. Could she separate from Jacob? Could she even fathom it? In that moment, she realized the terrible truth. The miners sought more than a body, they wanted a soul, a life to tether them to existence. "Mommy, I'm scared," Jacob wailed, breaking Sarah from her reverie. The woman's gestures grew urgent, the shadows closing in, time warped. Was this the moment they could be saved? Or was she condemned to join the ranks of those who were lost? With one heart-stopping leap, she surged toward the light, Jacob's small hand clasped in hers. But then the ground shuddered violently. A rift opened beneath her, revealing an abyss filled with shadowy figures writhing in agony. "No!" Sarah screamed, losing her footing. Desperation clawed at her. Would they fall into the depths? In that instant, the miners' wails grew deafening, penetrated by a pinprick of silence, as the woman's voice echoed one last time, "It's your choice." What choice would she make, and would it lead them into freedom or into darkness forever? The world spun around Sarah as she grappled with the void beneath her. Each heartbeat thundered in her ears, drowning out the pitiful cries of the shadows clawing for her and Jacob. The abyss yawned wide, an endless maw of darkness, promising to swallow them whole if she faltered for just a moment. Still clutching Jacob tightly, she fought to regain her balance, gritting her teeth against the overwhelming fear that threatened to consume her. "No!" The word slipped from her lips like a prayer. With sheer willpower, she pulled herself back, clenching Jacob even closer. The flickering light ahead beckoned like a lifeline, shimmering with an intensity that made her heart ache. But it was impossible to ignore the bitterness lurking in the shadows, the lost miners who yearned for their companionship or perhaps their very essence. "Mommy, please." Jacob's voice was a fragile thread in the storm. He looked up at her, his wide eyes brimming with tears, reflecting a desperate hope that nearly shattered her resolve. I won't let you go. I promise. She gasped, drawing strength from the warmth of his small body. They couldn't give in, they couldn't let the darkness win. With every ounce of her being, Sarah turned back toward the light, hoping it would guide them to safety. The wind howled around them, a gusty banshee whispering their names, promising revenge if they dared pass. The miners' shadows closed in again, their hollow faces twisted in sorrow, their hands reaching out as if to pull them into their midnight sanctuary. Then everything shifted, the ground beneath her buckled again, a series of ragged tremors that suggested the earth was in pain. She darted forward, but the shadows surged. They grasped at her ankles, their fingers icy and frantic. Panic swelled in her chest. Run! They stumbled together, her body working on instinct, tearing through the storm of whispers. The echoes of the cave grew louder, a tumultuous chorus promising eternal suffering. As they ran, the flickering light danced tantalizingly just ahead. It flickered like a beacon of hope but was tainted by the encroaching darkness. Sarah's breathing quickened, the shadows closing in, wrapping around her limbs like snakes. Yet she pushed on, pulling Jacob with her, each of his cries cutting through her tired resolve. Hold tight! She shouted, her voice cracking as she tried to drown out the miners' haunting wails, now rising to a crescendo that vibrated in her bones. They were almost there, she could feel it. The warmth of the light begot an instinctual spark within her, urging her to break free, but just as they reached the glow, it flickered violently and began to dim. Alarm surged through her as dread knotted her stomach. What's happening? Suddenly, a blinding flash engulfed them, and Sarah felt herself thrust forward. The darkness screamed, the shadows ripping away, leaving nothing but an echoing void behind. The light swallowed them, wrapping around them like a mother's embrace, yet, as the intensity waned, Sarah found herself alone in a vast chamber, the walls pulsating in a deep, reflective silence. The air was thick, heavy, pregnant with tension. There was no sign of Jacob. Jacob! She cried out, her voice a desperate yowl that ricocheted off the cavern's high ceilings. Panic exploded in her chest, and like a rushing river, the cold realization swept over her she had lost him in the chaos. Was he still tethered by those shadowy limbs, or had he been dragged away? The specters could have taken him, drawn him into their gloom. A soft whisper broke through the oppressive silence, weaving around her like a promise and warning combined. Hear our plea, he is ours. The pain in Sarah's heart pierced her deeper than any blade. Who were these souls? What did they want from her? Would she have to pay the price for her escape? Her breath hitched at the terrifying weight of the choice she knew was looming. She clenched her fists, bracing herself. The cave flickered around her, shadows lurking in the edges. I will find him. She vowed fiercely, resolving to face whatever horrors lay ahead. What twisted truth awaited her deeper in the cave? Would she dare to confront the darkness that separated her from her son? The answers lay ahead, shrouded in fear and uncertainty. Sarah's heart raced with desperate urgency, each pulse echoing in the cavern's expansive void. The darkness pressed in on her cold and suffocating. It felt alive, shifting like a living creature, a predator stalking its prey with patience and malice. She swallowed hard, forcing her voice to steady. Jacob! The silence that followed was deafening, amplifying her fear until it clawed at her mind. With no immediate path forward, she stepped hesitantly into the chamber, examining the damp walls gleaming with a slick, unnatural sheen that seemed to pulse under her fingertips. The air hung heavy with the scent of decay and despair, a reminder of the souls forever lost, perhaps entangled in the shadows just beyond her reach. Hear our plea, he is ours. The whisper echoed again, colder this time, tightening around her like a vice. Anger flickered within her, kindling against the icy grip of terror. You want my son? She shouted defiantly, her voice trembling but fierce. You want to take him? A flicker of movement caught her eye in the corner of the chamber. Shadows twisted and surged like dark waters, shifting in a chaotic dance. She turned, eyes straining against the dark, heart pounding as she strained to listen for Jacob's faintest sound. "Jacob!" She cried out again, pushing the terror down, focusing instead on courage. "I'll find you." She began to inch deeper into the cavern, each step reverberating in the silence. The whispers grew louder, swirling around her, teasing and taunting. "Leave now, join us," they beckoned like chimeric sirens, promising solace from her fear. But all Sarah could think of was Jacob's frightened face, his small body, and the warmth of his embrace. With every step, she fought to keep the memories close, grounding herself against the horror that twisted around her. Suddenly, a chilling breeze swept through the chamber, sending a shiver up her spine. It picked up speed, swirling with a life of its own, coiling around her legs like the hands of a desperate spirit. The cold wrapped tighter, threatening to pull her into the very shadows she feared. "No!" she screamed, breaking free of its grip with sheer will. She stumbled to a nearby wall, steadying herself against the cool rock, gasping for breath. From the depths of the chamber, a faint light flickered, dim and wavering, yet undeniably present. Hope surged within her. "Jacob!" she breathed, taking a cautious step toward the glow. But with each step, shadows rallied, erupting into chaos, shadows morphing into faces of anguish, distorted miners' faces, eyes wide with unfulfilled dreams and eternal regret. The miners' cries filled the air, a haunting testimony to their souls eclipsed by darkness. "You can't escape," they lamented, their voices like nails scraping against her sanity. "Leave me alone." A primal shout erupted from her throat, grounding her resolve. She pushed against the darkness with every ounce of strength her body could muster. The miners recoiled, but their faces melted into shifting shadows, warping back into the dimness, leaving nothing but a cold laughter in their wake. The light was now brighter, reaching toward her like a hand desperate to pull her in. "I'm coming, Jacob," she called, fierce and resolute. She lunged toward that flickering beacon, determined to reach her son, but just as she approached, the light distorted, revealing a twisted figure, a spectral silhouette with hollow eyes and a cruel grin, a guardian of the darkness. "What will you sacrifice to save him?" it hissed, its voice a blend of mockery and malice. The question pierced her very soul. What was she willing to lose? She drew a sharp breath, the weight of her choice pressing down like a boulder. Would she barter her life, her sanity, or something far more precious? Time slowed as she stared into the figure's eyes, feeling the shadows closing in, and fear washed over her once more. Would courage be enough? The next heartbeat held everything in balance. Would she dare to answer? Her breath quickened, every instinct screaming at her to run. But the thought of leaving Jacob behind was unbearable. "I'll do anything," she cried, desperation fueling her words. "Just help me find him." The shadow figure laughed, a low, rumbling sound that echoed through the chamber like thunder. "Anything? Worthy of a mother's love," it taunted, tilting its head as if considering her offer. The hollow gaze bore into her, and she felt weakness seep in. "You do not understand the nature of sacrifice," it cautioned. Around her, the darkness shifted again, thick and roiling like smoke, eager to envelop her. The miners' faces appeared once more, their mouths moving in silent screams, and her heart pounded out a frantic tattoo against her ribs. Each second threatened to drown her sanity. "What do you want?" she shouted, trembling. "Your pain feeds us," it hissed, leaning closer, revealing more of its grotesque form, shadows writhing in a grotesque ballet of despair. "Let go of your joy, exchange it for your son." Sarah's mind raced. It wasn't just fear, this was a trap, a promise laced with poison. "No. He is worth everything. You won't take him from me." The defiance in her voice felt like a frail defense against the abyss. As the figure twisted in the light, its shape began to change. No longer a mere shadow but something more tangible, clawed hands reaching from the darkness toward her. "You think what you love is worth fighting for? Then step closer and speak your truth," it commanded, the air thick with an oppressive force. With her heart pounding, Sarah stepped forward. She felt a wave of sorrow wash over her as the shadows clawed at her, pulling memories from her mind: Jacob's laughter, tender moments, and the warmth of his small hand in hers. It hurt to remember, and for a heartbeat, the darkness whispered sweetly, inviting her to forget. She shook her head violently. "I want to let you take them." An echo of her own certainty rippled through her as she faced the malevolent entity. The whispers began to rise again, a cacophony of pleading voices that twisted and knotted into an overwhelming chorus. "We were trapped just like you, stop it!" she cried out, pressing her palms against her ears. "Find him. Please." She had to stay focused, she had to remember why she was here, what she was fighting for. Sacrificial love demands a high price, the figure cooed, a hint of vulnerability in that chilling voice. Life for life, pain in exchange for safety. Choose wisely. The light behind the figure flickered violently, revealing jagged rocks and the depth of despair that lay behind it. Shadows ducked and weaved, taunting her, stirring memories of loss and regret. "What kind of price?" she pushed, frustration bubbling with hope. "What do you want from me?" The figure grinned, sharp teeth glinting ominously. "The weight of secrets. Are you ready to know? Will you sacrifice your truths to protect him?" Sarah felt a surge of dread. The truth of her past hung like a noose around her neck. Did she really want to unleash those dark memories? But if it meant saving Jacob, yes. She shouted. "I'll do it." In an instant, the shadows surged around her, pulling at her, engulfing her in a whirlwind of icy darkness. All comparisons of rush faded as her essence began to slip away, pulled from the realm of safety to one of torment. "Then prepare to face the sins that bind you," it hissed, now a looming pall over her. As she stood on the brink of her darkest fears, she could feel Jacob calling out, still somewhere in this nightmare. Would revealing her past bring him back? Would she finally understand the true cost of saving him? What have I unleashed? Sarah wondered as the darkness cloaked her again, swallowing everything whole, and just when it seemed as though the shadows would claim her completely, a piercing scream echoed through the corridor. "Mom!" The sound shattered the air, sharp with terror and desperation. Sarah's heart answered that cry, igniting a fierce determination within her. But would she be able to find him before it was too late? The shadows wove tighter around Sarah, chilling her to the bone as she fought to push through the suffocating blackness. With each breath, the air thickened, almost tangible, heavy with the weight of her secrets. The scream echoed again, sharper this time, sending splinters of ice through her veins. "Jacob!" she shouted, desperation clawing at her throat. "Do you hear him?" The shadow figure whispered, its voice a rough, sneering caress. "So close, yet so far. What has he called you? Mother? Do you deserve that title?" Sarah gritted her teeth, the very name driving her. "Stop it." She squeezed her eyes shut, blocking the figure and its vile taunts. "You want to twist my heart against me." But her memories turned traitor, surfacing like dark specters from her past: a distant fight with her husband, the day Jacob slipped and fell, the weight of guilt pooling in her stomach. Had she been too wrapped up in her own struggles to notice? The shadows beckoned, teasing out the whispers of solitude and regret. "Face your truths, Sarah," it hissed, each word tightening around her like a noose. "Only then can you save him." She felt the ground quake beneath her as jagged rocks rose from the dark depths, the cavern shifting like it had a will of its own. Committing to the shadows was no longer an option, she needed to find the light within herself, even if it was buried beneath her fears. "Jacob needs me," she screamed, feeling the shiver of doubt slide away, replaced by surge after surge of anger. She would fight for him, no matter what. "Curse those you love," the figure cooed, now swirling erratically around her, its clawed hands reaching out to touch her heart. "That is how you gain strength." A chill skittered up her spine. "I want to let you." Forcing her focus, Sarah summoned memories of joy. Jacob's laughter ringing like bells, the innocent joy that radiated from his eyes, his cheerful chatter that filled their home. Those flickers of light pushed back against the shadows. With a sudden surge of energy, she thrust her palms outward, feeling warmth bloom from the depths of her despair. The shadows writhed, refusing to yield, contagious wrath collapsing in on itself as she stood firm. You think pain can conquer love? You're wrong. In that moment, the darkness screamed. It rolled and twisted, the miners' faces flickering in and out around her, but she couldn't let that stop her. I am not my fears. I am a mother, a protector. The figure screeched, recoiling as if her words struck it like a whip. You fight me with hollow words? Where is the sacrifice you promised? Then she saw at a glimmer in the dark a faint light shining like a star against the suffocating void. Jacob's voice rang in her mind, urging her forward. With every ounce of strength, she propelled herself towards that flicker. Shut up, you monster. I will trade my darkness for his light. The light brightened, a beacon piercing the shadows, burning away the oppressive weight of guilt and grief. The screeches around her became frantic, a pitiful chorus of protest echoing through the chamber. As the darkness receded, the bitter realization hit Sarah: the sacrifice wasn't just about the shedding of painful truths, but the acceptance of her own vulnerability. Only in laying down her defenses could she truly save Jacob. Then she heard it again, clearer this time: Jacob, faint but growing in strength. Mom! Hold on, baby. I'm coming. Her heart surged as she raced toward the light, ready to confront whatever awaited her on the other side, but just before she breached the threshold, she felt the chilling grip of the shadow figure wrap around her ankle, pulling her back with a force that threatened to break her spirit. You cannot escape so easily. The world twisted again, and with a surge of panic, her voice trembled. What do you want? The truth, it purred, shall be your prison. As the shadows swirled and laughter echoed cruelly, Sarah felt her heart plummet into an abyss of uncertainty. Would revealing her darkest secret truly rescue Jacob, or would it ensnare them both in eternal darkness? As the ground beneath her shifted again, poised to swallow her whole, a chilling realization struck: her battle was far from over. Would she sacrifice her last shred of hope to pull Jacob from the void? Time was slipping away fast, and the shadows were closing in. The ground trembled beneath Sarah's feet as she felt the dark figure tighten its grip, dragging her back away from the light and Jacob's pleading voice. Panic ignited within her, raw and fierce, a flame fighting against the encroaching cold. Let me go! She shouted, her voice cracking as the shadows constricted further, whispering insidious lies into her mind. You call out for him, yet here you stand a coward in his moment of need, the figure taunted, releasing a chilling laugh that reverberated through the cavern. Its breath was fetid, like decay. Face it, Sarah. You've always been afraid. Afraid to be a mother, afraid of love. No. You're wrong. She protested, wrenching her foot, but the shadows clutched tighter, the weight of accusation pressing heavy. I love him. I'll do anything for him. And yet, you've never revealed your truth. The truth that is hidden deep within. The figure lunged closer, its cold breath tickling her ear. What did you do, Sarah? What did you hide from him? From yourself? Isn't that the real reason he suffers? A wave of dread washed over her. Memories began to flicker and swirl: her husband's disappointed look, the frightened eyes of Jacob when she turned away. She trembled, the life she had built felt like it was slipping through her fingers. Would unraveling her past truly bind them in an eternal prison? Or could it be the key that unlocked Jacob's rescue? Admit it, the figure hissed, lurid triumph in its voice. You've cursed him from the very beginning with your silence. Silence? Sarah could barely form the word. It felt like a knife lodged in her throat. Every secret she ever kept rolled through her mind like a haunting parade of specters demanding a voice. Her heart raced, each beat echoing between her ears like thunder, but the light, that sweet flicker of hope, pulsed on the edges of her consciousness. I won't let you take him from me. I refuse. She dug deep within herself, summoning every shred of courage, and there it was, rising from the ashes of her fear, a memory, how Jacob had smiled at her. How his laugh filled their home with joy, a warmth that broke through even the coldest of nights. In that moment, love ignited within her, pushing back against the shadows. Jacob needs me, and I need to be honest. The darkness shrieked, recoiling as if struck by a great force. Light only reveals darkness. It will be your undoing. No one can bear the weight of the truth. You underestimate me. Sarah yelled, finding her feet again, refusing to be held. You don't know what love can do. You don't know what I can do for my son. With renewed determination, she lunged toward the flickering light, shoving aside the shadows with each step. They clawed at her, biting and shrieking, but she pressed on, the hope and love for Jacob burning fiercely in her heart. Mom! Jacob's voice came clearer now, stronger, shaping her path. Please, I need you. As she neared the light, Sarah could feel the darkness beginning to crack, the walls trembling, light spilling through the seams. But just as she reached to grasp it, the figure rushed back, taller and more menacing than before. What if the truth is not what you expect? Will you risk losing him forever? It jeered, extending an elongated claw toward her heart. She hesitated for just a moment, heart pounding furiously. The moment froze, all of her fears manifesting in that single breath. What would you have me do? She whispered, the question hanging in the air like a noose. Reveal your sin, and perhaps you both may find peace. The shadows writhed, eager anticipation bubbling up as it tightened its grip. Suddenly, the ground shook violently, and the chamber began to crumble around her. The light flickered more than ever, seeming to beckon her forward, even as shadows loomed in the corners, threatening to slink back into the depths. Would she take that step into the light, facing her darkest truth for Jacob? There, on the precipice, the choice loomed large. Would she seize the moment or be swallowed by the darkness forever? A final scream echoed through the cave, the walls vibrating with urgency. The shadows quivered, and a terrible stillness followed. Would her truth liberate them both, or would it plunge them deeper into despair? The air buzzed with tension, a palpable weight pressing down on Sarah as she stood at the brink of revelation. All the swirling shadows seemed to halt, waiting hungry for her to step into the light. She could sense the warmth calling to her, but the darkness still loomed behind, its whispers growing louder, more insistent. What's it going to be, Sarah? The figure flickered, its form twisting into grotesque shapes, each more terrifying than the last. Choose the light, and lose him. Choose the truth, and you may lose even more. Breathless, Sarah felt the sting of tears prick her eyes, blurring her vision of Jacob. She could almost see him now, fear and desperation etched across his young face. The thought of his anguish ignited a fire in her chest. There was no turning back. Jacob! She cried, realizing this was no longer just about her. This was his life, his future. I love you. I will never abandon you. The figure snarled, its voice thick with venom. You claim love, but love cannot thrive on lies. Speak your hidden sin, or suffer the consequences along with him. She bent her head, grappling with the storm inside her as dark memories clawed for escape. Flashes of moments she wished could vanish swirled through her mind like violent gusts of wind. Secrets long buried, moments of weakness, choices made under pressure. They morphed into shadows, striking at her with swift precision. No more. She shouted, the word a defiance against the darkness that sought her soul. I will not let you control me anymore. The ground beneath her bucked violently, billowing dust and debris. As her heart thudded like a drum, she steeled herself, forcing the words to rise. A life I tried to craft without scars, without pain. But Jacob deserves to know I know everything. The figure howled, advancing, its presence suffocating. But do you? Do you truly understand the cost? Yes. She screamed, her voice merging with the rumble of the cavern's collapse. I let my fear win. I let my guilt fog my love. I'm sorry, Jacob. I am so sorry. As the last word escaped her lips, the shadows surged back, twisting in fury. The figure screeched, a sound like nails on a chalkboard, recoiling as if struck. For an instant, the light burst forth, flooding the cavern, and Sarah felt a warmth envelop her like a protective shield. I did it, she gasped, hope mingling with terror. But the tremors around her intensified, and the shadows twisted again, fiercely grasping at the light, pulling it back into the void. Foolish woman! The figure roared, incandescent rage igniting its form. You've awakened what should never have been stirred. The truth brings despair before it could finish its curse. The walls around her exploded in a cacophony of rock and chaos. The entire chamber trembled, cracked stone and dust erupting in a flurry. Every nerve in her body screamed for her to flee. Jacob! Sarah cried again, the name rippling through the debris like a lifeline. But in her heart, she knew the fight was far from over, and then she saw him, Jacob, silhouetted by the light she had summoned, stumbling but alive. Mom! He yelled, but the figure was there, looming, poised to crush everything she had fought for. In that moment of clarity, a realization struck Sarah like a lightning bolt. I will not let you take him. I will not let fear reign. In a surge of raw courage, she launched herself toward Jacob, reaching through the chaos towards her son. As her fingers outstretched, the shadow lunged, gaping more ready to consume them both, but as she connected with Jacob, something inside surged, a connection unbreakable. Hold on! She shouted, just as the darkness enveloped them, raging and clawing, trying to pull them apart. Would they break free or be swallowed by the very darkness she fought against? The figure's laughter echoed, reverberating off the crumbling walls as everything around them spun into a vortex of shadows. In the eye of that chaos, where everything teetered on annihilation, one question lingered: what sacrifices would Sarah make to reclaim her son and outwit the dark? Intentions lurking in the abyss? Sarah felt the world spinning away as she grasped Jacob's hand, the darkness swirling around them like a malevolent tempest. Stay with me. We can't let go, she shouted, feeling the pull of the shadows, an eerie chant rising among the minor specters echoing their eerie plea of join us. She felt the weight of the cavern pressing down, as if it were alive, determined to snatch them back into the depths of despair. But this time, she wouldn't yield. A surge of strength coursed through her, ignited by her fierce love for her son. I won't let you take him. She shouted defiantly, her voice resolute against the swirling shadows. The darkness writhed and hissed, snapping and lunging at them with icy fingers trying to latch onto Jacob. Mommy, it's too strong. His panic surged through her, igniting an even deeper determination. Hold on tight. Sarah gasped, yanking him closer, her heart pounding in a relentless rhythm. Before she could even process it, the shadowy figure lunged forward, its gaping maw threatening to consume them both. But Sarah wasn't afraid anymore. You have no power over us, she declared, surging out toward the flickering light ahead, the warmth beckoning them like the embrace of a loved one. Just as the darkness threatened to encase them, Sarah shouted, together, Jacob. We can break the curse. They squeezed each other's hands tightly, and, heart pounding with faith, she willed herself toward that light. Instinctively, she conjured every beautiful memory they shared, the laughter, the bedtime stories, the warmth of hugs binding her love into an indomitable force against the encroaching shadows. In that luminous moment, something within her shifted. The light pulsed, igniting around them like a sun breaking the dawn. The sinister whispers turned into screams of rage as they felt the growing warmth. No! You can't escape! The shadow figure roared, its expression morphing into furious disbelief. Watch us! Sarah replied, refusing to be shaken. With Jacob's hand held tightly in hers, she propelled them forward, drawing strength from their bond. The cave's walls shook, dust and rocks raining down as the darkness recoiled, losing its grip amid the power of love and truth united. Then, like a curtain tearing to reveal the sun, the light broke through, illuminating every corner of the cavern. The shadow figure shrieked, its form dissolving into wisps of darkness, shadows fading into the ether as if they had never existed. No! The truth! It screeched, echoing away until silence filled the cavern. Breathless, Sarah and Jacob stumbled from the cave's mouth into the soft glow of twilight outside, the cool air a balm against their scarred souls. She looked down at Jacob, and her heart nearly burst with relief. His eyes were wide, sparkling with both fear and the innocent brightness of life. "We made it, Mommy!" he exclaimed, his voice bright, yet tinged with confusion as they both caught their breath in a world that still felt unreal. "I was so scared." Sarah knelt, enveloping him in her arms while the weight of everything crashed around them. "I know, sweetheart. I was scared too, but we did it together." Tears of relief flowed freely as she held him tight, feeling the warmth of his small frame, a small lighthouse amidst the darkness she had almost lost him to. "I promise I will never let you go again," she whispered, heart aching with gratitude and pain. "None of the secrets will come between us again," she vowed, looking into his innocent eyes, familiarity replacing shadows that had once threatened to sever their bond. As they made their way back towards Silver Hollow, the sun began to rise on the horizon, casting a golden light on the town, illuminating the decay with the promise of renewal. The streets, once weighed down by sadness and disillusionment, seemed to shimmer with hope, small wisps of life returning as people dared to step out of darkness. The townsfolk gathered in surprised groups, peering as though they, too, felt something shift in the air, lost within the hope of a new beginning. Sarah held Jacob's hand tighter, a synchronized heartbeat as they embraced the dawn of another day, a new chapter where their truths could flow freely, where fear would take a backseat to love. The miners' spirits were still bound to Silver Hollow, but now they were set free. They no longer had a hold on her or her son. And in that moment of conviction, she knew the curse had been lifted not just from them but from the town they called home. As they stepped into the light of a hopeful morning, Sarah took a deep breath and turned back toward that cursed cave, now nothing more than a silent guardian holding within it remnants of a fight won. Gabby leaned into her side, fearful but assured, and Sarah smiled, a bright, triumphant light returning to her heart. "Are you ready, sweetheart?" she asked, her voice steady, for whatever lay ahead. "There's so much to do, and we have so many stories left to tell." "Yes," Jacob exclaimed, kicking up pieces of the fallen dust as they walked forward, side by side, hand in hand, embracing the future together. And as they ventured deeper into the waking town, a swift breeze passed by, whispering promises of what was to come. What would the town reclaim with their truths? With renewed purpose, the answer would unfurl in time, one heartfelt moment at a time. Now, if you're feeling this story like I am, I need all of you to listen up. This is your moment to support the channel. Subscribe immediately so you don't miss out on the next exclusive journey. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm, it truly makes a difference. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about this ending. Let us hear what you've got. And please, share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. Don't wait even one more second to show your support. Only true fans understand the importance of standing together here in this community.